there's a lot of talk about mentorship now, and about how people need mentors or people should seek out mentors. But the flip side of that is there needs to be people out there who are willing to be the mentors too and understand that it's the two-way street that you're talking about. It's not just someone needs to seek out someone who they think would be a good mentor. There has to be the mutual trust, like you mentioned, and respect between the parties to understand when someone's giving you helpful feedback, you should listen to them.
Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 podcast.
What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome to our season 3 finale of the 1720 podcast. This will be the last one in 2022. And we thought, what better guest to bring for the season finale than somebody that used to work with Stewie and can dig up all the dirt, and we can make fun of him for the next hour. So this is going to be awesome.
Great.
Yeah, instantly in the ditch.
Yeah.
As
Perfect.
projected. Yeah. Ian Fullington. Thanks for joining us, man.
Of course, I wouldn't miss it. I feel like I've been a guest without actually being a guest on the podcast with the number of shout outs I've gotten over the years.
You're probably number 2 only to Fish, right? Like Fish got a lot of shout outs early on, but you get a lot.
It only took us not working together to finally get me on the podcast, right?
A couple false starts. We had a couple false starts
we've been
before
trying
today.
for a while.
No, I know. That's been my fault, but
Yes.
I have a little free time now.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get to that. For those of you listeners who don't know who Ian is, commonly referred to on here as superstar at the firm, but I'll let you introduce yourself. Who's Ian?
Sure. Ian Fullington. I am a now recovering litigator lawyer. I used to work with Stewart, but I have since gone in-house as of very recently, which I'd love to talk about here in a little bit. But I'm a construction litigator lawyer, been practicing for almost 10 years, which is kind of crazy to say out loud.
Man, I can remember when I first started practicing law thinking that the guys ahead of me who had been practicing 3-4 years were like ancient. Mm-hmm. And now
I still feel that way a little bit about you, just to be clear. No, I'm just kidding.
That I'm ancient. Man, I feel it too. I was talking on the phone to somebody today and I was like, yeah, I've been practicing for like close to 20 years, which is a touch of an exaggeration in like lawyer terms. I think I'm in my 19th year. Holy moly. Mm-hmm. And it went by in a blink. We'll go talk some about like how life starts to speed up, I'm sure. But all right, so give us a little backstory. I know all of it, so I'm remiss to like lead us into the story, but
sure,
the come up stuff, because you end up as a construction lawyer. What?
Are you or are you not from DFW? Because half of us know, half of us don't.
So great question. I was not born in DFW. I was born in Maryland, actually. So my dad's in the construction industry, and at that time we were living in Maryland, right outside of DC. And so I was born in Maryland, but I consider myself a Texan. Moved to Texas when I was very young. We lived in DFW a little while, lived in Houston for a short time, and then we did some hard time in Lubbock during my formative years as a small kid. So I do remember dust storms, and then at the time, I don't know if it's still that way, but they had the brew-throughs where we get the brew-throughs. You get the family in the car and you drive out of Lubbock County to get beer. You remember that?
No.
Yeah, okay. Well,
not a thing at all.
That was a fun family activity. We would sometimes get in the car and we'd drive out. I think outside of Lubbock County, I think it was completely dry at the time. Go to the brew-through.
Like a barn that you like drive through?
That's exactly it.
I've seen them before, but I'm not familiar with.
It's like the place you get your car inspected, but instead of that, they just put a pack of beer in the trunk and you drive off.
Take 6, not a take 5.
Well, it's like a take 12. I get the joke. Yeah, it's pretty good.
The weather's crazy out there. We did a project in Lubbock and somebody warned us like, hey, the weather's crazy there. And we're like, yeah, whatever. You kind of just brush that off. But then one day was like a tornado basically, and you had to like batten down the hatches and everything was blowing around. Then the next day it started snowing. It was just wild, man.
Sounds exactly right. I remember the dust storms, and that's something that you would wake up, you knew to have to brush your car off.
Yeah.
Because it's not like there was just dust all over it. And then, the temperature would just go wild out there. But luckily, we got back to DFW when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. And I've been here ever since until I went to college. And so went to Plano Senior High, class of 2000 and, do you know when?
Oh, hold on a second. I do know. 07.
Exactly.
Smoked it.
Yeah.
Dang.
How about that? We've been working together for a while, man.
I was really rooting for you to get it wrong.
We would try it again, and then I'll cut it back. 2008.
You're close, but no, 2007.
There you go. That's for you, Kev.
And at the time, I knew that I wanted to go to Oklahoma. My dad was a Sooner grad. He went there, and I grew up being an Oklahoma OU fan. Remember rooting for them in the national championship game when they beat Florida State way back when, and then sadly our last national championship. And then I remember us getting smoked by USC, LSU, and then sadly Boise State. But still, big Oklahoma fan, and so I went there for undergrad. My decision was excellent. I loved it there. It was far enough away from home where it felt like I was kind of on my own, but also I was 3 hours from home.
Yeah, right.
So there's that support structure there, which is really nice, but also kind of a level of independence that allowed me to grow and kind of figure out who I was.
Did you know what you wanted to be at that point when you're entering undergrad?
Yes and no. I was given two choices growing up. I was going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And then
you were given two choices.
My mother was like, yeah, well, that's pretty much what we told him. It was doctor or lawyer. And then when I was younger, I had like all sorts of, not jaw surgery, but like braces and all that sort of fun stuff that you get when you're younger. And I couldn't stand the sight of my own blood. I passed out once, and then that was pretty much the, he's not going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And so lawyer was the path du jour at that point.
So eventually you end up as a construction lawyer. We could tell that story. But looking back, like your dad is in construction. Do you have I was on the job sites in my boots at 3 and all that stuff stories?
No, which is kind of an odd thing to say for someone who I still kind of consider myself growing up adjacent to the industry. I don't have the traditional background. And I think my parents would even say like, we didn't think you'd ever be in construction, or, we're not going to be in construction. But no, I didn't really have the traditional background. I knew my dad would go out, and I think he even started as more or less a laborer in the field and worked his way up, and he's still in the industry. He works for GC here in town. But yeah, he would leave early in the morning and come back late at night, and man, he still does that. And so I knew of what he did, but I really didn't know the nitty gritty of what he did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's through my dad and through some very fortunate connections and doors that were open for me that I'm very grateful for, that I was introduced to the construction industry. And that's been a real blessing. It really has.
Yeah. Cause if I remember your story, didn't you like intern for the Oklahoma SEC basically?
That's exactly it. And so when I went to law school, I thought doing either intellectual property or securities litigation would be the path I'd want to go down. And so I tried to pursue both of those through either my curriculum or through my internships. And I spent a significant amount of time as a extern for the Oklahoma Department of Securities, just investigating. We did some really interesting stuff while we were there. I don't know how much detail I can talk about it, but we would go out and interview people about people who'd been scammed by. It's not as glorious as it sounds. Like when you hear in the news, like someone charged with securities fraud, it was somebody starting a fake business and selling off shares they don't actually own.
But tied to the campus?
No, this is the state of Oklahoma.
Oh, got it.
So it's like the SEC, but the state version.
Got it.
I can talk all about securities law and blue sky law all day long, but I think that's
sufficient.
Yeah, enough.
That's Mike Bassett's podcast.
What?
To go talk in detail about that.
About securities law?
Yeah.
Or anything.
It would be like,
right.
For me.
Yeah. And then I'll send it to you and be like, hey, you should listen to this at the 13-minute. And you're like, okay, I can't. So he has a psychiatrist on talking about jury selection, and it's really interesting. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I'm out on that.
Out. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to talk about my intro to the industry.
Yeah, come on with it.
So it was actually, that's when I met you, Stewart. I clerked for a half summer at a firm we both used to work at. I guess that's kind of spoiler alert a little bit, but worked there for a half summer. I really liked it. I liked working with people. I liked the litigation aspect of it. I thought it was interesting. And when you hear construction law or construction litigation, it's very different than what it seems. It's not just, you're arguing about buildings or things like that. There's all sorts of different things that it encompasses. It paints a broad brush. And so you could be dealing with anything from a business divorce to construction defects to some like insurance coverage issues to anything and everything. Like something
hand-holding sometimes. It's like, hey, I need to bounce this off of somebody, sort of general counsel stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Review contracts, things like that. And so it was different, challenging. It was interesting, and I kind of grew to really like the idea of being a private practice litigator at the time.
When was that? When did you clerk at the firm?
Oh, man. That was back in the old offices.
Yeah.
I graduated law school in 2014, so I think it was the summer of
12 or 13.
12.
Yeah.
I think that. So we've known each other for 10 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Is clerking the equivalent of an internship?
Yes.
Yeah. We call them like summer associates or summer clerks, but law students between their first and second, and then their second and third years of law school, like leave school, go find a job. Usually they'll split the summer, work at a different firm, doing different stuff.
Got it.
And did you just have summer with us?
I did a half summer, and major shout out to Nick Brooks for making that summer awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He's a good dude, and I still look to him because he runs a summer program, or does a really good job running the summer program at the GC he works for. And he made our summer great.
Yeah, he does. Do you know Nick?
I was about to say, how do I know Nick?
It's a buddy of ours. I mean, I don't know. We probably bump into him and stuff all the time.
At P&A?
No, Nick works. He's in-house counsel for Beck.
Okay.
I don't know. You would know
Probably
him.
through social media.
Probably
Yeah.
so. Nick's a great dude, man. He super smart lawyer, lots of accolades, very involved in the industry and socially and blah, blah, blah. But I credit one of his greatest ideas of all time being your summer of like just leaning in and saying, look, these people are here. They need to like feel like part of the firm. And I think we went to lunch every day. We did there was a plan. We did stuff. And it was one of the first times that we like programmatically leaned into our summer associates and said, these guys aren't here just for 6 weeks. Like if everything goes right, these guys are future partners of ours. I say guys in like the gender neutral Midwestern sense of the term, but they're future partners. Let's treat them like that. And Nick like shouldered that and like leaned in and said, here's how we do it.
Sure.
And changed your summer. Your summer was different like than anyone else's, man.
Oh yeah. And I still lean on Nick in that sort of stuff. I know we talked before. So this last summer at P&A, we had a clerk who I really liked, and part of what I took upon myself was to figure out, how do I make her summer great?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I leaned hard on Nick. Like, what do you do for your interns? Because your interns love it. Like, what do you do? Like, what sort of pointers? And he's like, here's the cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Like, run with it and do what you want with it. But basically it comes down to, it's a lot of planning, and it's making sure that they feel welcome every day that they're in the office. They're never going to sit and twiddle their thumbs thinking, I have nothing to do. Why am I here? It's always making sure that they feel included as a part of the team, and that the work they're doing, it may not be the most high stakes work, but it's still important. Like, there's a purpose. They're not just given busy work.
Yeah. Don't send them in the copy room or the mail room all summer.
Exactly.
Bring them to some meetings, some lunch appointments, show them the ropes a little bit.
Yeah. Make them feel involved and a part of it.
Yeah.
Well, the team.
I guess it was last summer. It was this summer before. I can't remember. This summer you're talking about. Ian and I sat down a number of times to walk through like what does this look like? And I remember referring you back to, I think it's like around the 45-minute mark of Holly Crowder's episode where she talks about like preparing for day one, making sure that they show up and you're like, hey, you're a welcomed guest. Like we've been waiting on you, not like, oh gosh, like I forgot that you were here. Let me see if I can find you a computer. Like working through the actual implementable logistics of that. And summer crushed, man.
Yeah.
Crushed.
I mean, that's a huge takeaway. And even with new hires too, that has been something that we pushed really hard for, is make sure that when they show up, there's something there that shows that we've been waiting for them.
Yeah.
It just requires work and planning. And Nick was really helpful and helped us plan for a great summer.
Yeah, for sure.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how annoying was it that your boss kept referencing podcasts that he was speaking in that you had to go listen to?
So
just curious.
Fun segue there. I joke with Stewart that every time he would mention the podcast or it's a Baylor Law practice court, everyone has to take a drink. And so by the end, like we wouldn't actually, but if we did, by the end of the day, there would be absolutely no one in the office would be functional.
Bust out the defibrillators.
Yeah, basically.
Just everybody just podcast all day long.
There's a reason there was a couch in my office. Like I had to pass out at a certain point.
By the way, still my couch.
Go get it.
I'm going to
go
get
adversely possess it. You're going to have to fight Barry over it.
I think I
may take Barry in that fight. I'm sorry, but I may take Barry in
I'll
that
hit
fight.
him with a stick from the back. That way. Like sneak it. That's not going to work.
No.
He'll just snap over his head and he'll just slowly turn around.
Just be super mad.
Yeah.
It's Ian gave it to me. I just have to go pick it up, which is a problem. But anyway, I'm going to go get it sometime.
You should.
Yeah. Okay. So we sort of story arced over like the growth of us being at the old firm and sort of coming into your own and moving with me when we went over to P&A. Tell me some of that points of those story that you think are like salient or important, or you look back on, whatever the case may be.
Sure. Lots of, man, I'm going to leave here and think about a half dozen things that I wish I would have mentioned that I'm not. But starting work at the old firm, it was kind of okay, you're going to go do it and figure it out. There wasn't the big law, we're going to hold you back and not argue motions or not draft certain things. I was left to try different things and draft motions and argue motions and figure it out. And initially I did a lot of litigation, and I think I grew a lot there. I had another good mentor over there, Aaron Capps, who
shout out to Capps.
He let me know when I would do something good, and he also let me know when something could be better. And I think that sort of active feedback that I'd get made me a much better lawyer. I think there's a lot there. Maybe I'm painting with a broad brush, but it doesn't seem like it's super common practice to give young associates the feedback that they need to really improve their work product. They're just expected to. And without that sort of mentorship or without that active feedback, I would not have been the lawyer I am today. And so that was a really key point in my development. Just getting that feedback, getting like contemporaneous feedback on what I was doing was really helpful, and not being afraid to ask somebody questions. I knew that I could ask a really dumb question without any judgment.
Yeah, that's just something I would say is I feel like, and we didn't work exclusively together, but I would just say like, here is a problem, go solve it. And I always worried, I think you probably figured out over the last 10 years, but like at the time I always worried like, I know he didn't know how to fix it. I hope he'll come identify when he kind of gets to the end of his rope, right? Mm-hmm. You always did a good job of coming back and saying, hey, here's some ideas. I don't know what to do though, right? But there's that tension between, I can't let the colloquial you, I can't let you out of my sight because I don't trust you, or just go and run and I hope you come back when it's the right time, right? So, finding that balance is tricky. But you always found a good balance of being like, I've got this, and if I don't, I'll come tell you.
It's tricky, but also that helps you service the client. And this is real lawyer, like private practice talk, but being given a problem and having to go figure it out and come back with options is probably one of the best things that I had to learn how to do.
Yeah.
Because you don't come back to a client and like, I don't know what to do. Like, that's not an acceptable answer. It's like, well, I have this problem that's critically affecting my business. How do I solve it? And you can't just say, well, I don't know. Like, they're hiring you and they're paying a premium for you to figure it out. And so being given that sort of quasi runway a little bit with just a unique issue or motion or problem as a baby lawyer helped me develop the sort of skills that helped me talk to clients later on. Mm-hmm. And that's also something that I was given the benefit of the doubt. I was put in front of clients from an early age I call it a baby lawyer. It's not actually an infant, baby. An infant attorney. Like my baby is a lawyer. No, it's a first, second, maybe even third year lawyer. But as a baby lawyer, I was given that runway to go make mistakes, which I think is super important.
How do you think you built up that character trait to accept criticism with grace and learn from it rather than be offended and emotional from it?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a really good question. And I think my short answer is, well, I don't know.
That's what's helped you become you.
I think so. And I think a lot of it just is that's how I recognize that I would be a better lawyer is I had to be able to accept criticism. I had to be able to take emotion out of certain things where it's tough to disassociate some of that feedback from an emotional response.
100%.
But having those conversations where you're a little bit more vulnerable and you're talking about things and struggles and what you do and don't know, that makes you a better lawyer. And I had good mentors who understood that from an early age. And so just recognizing that, understanding that there's going to be some difficult conversations. You're going to do something really bad. You're going to mess something up. You're going to accidentally sue the wrong person every now and then. We can edit that out, right?
No.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Dude, I remember that day. But let's come back to it because there's something to learn in there. Mm-hmm. But let's come back to it because I want to land more on Kev's question, which was like, I think it's two parts because it's part you, right? Like it's part you, like knowing in order for me to be better, I need to listen. Mm-hmm. But the other part is, and I give shout out to Caps again, is he did a really good job of building trust. Like you knew if he said in the way only Caps can say, like, yo dog, the period's in the wrong spot, whatever. Mm-hmm. He wasn't saying it to like bash your face in it. He was saying it because he cared and he wanted you to be better and he was like leaning in and like mentoring.
Mm-hmm. That is half of it.
Man, half of it's on the upstream party to say, I care. And I've gone through long, extensive lengths to build that trust. But it's also the downstream party to say like, okay, I want that feedback too.
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of talk about mentorship now and about how people need mentors or people should seek out mentors. But the flip side of that is there needs to be people out there who are willing to be the mentors too and understand that it's the two-way street that you're talking about. It's not just someone needs to seek out someone who they think would be a good mentor. There has to be the mutual trust, like you mentioned, and respect between the parties to understand when someone's giving you helpful feedback, you should listen to them.
Yeah. I want to come back to the suing the wrong party bit because it really what you're saying.
I don't want to come back to that.
No, it's like it was and it is like it sounds funny, but it's no big deal, right? But there's a couple of instances where I can remember you coming into my office, kind of like pleading in hand to me, and like, right, and like there's like to me there was a lot of lesson of my own learned there. It's just be like I can't let you leave and go make mistakes and then be upset about it when you did it. Right. And so I you might remember that interaction differently, but I remember being like, okay, how are we going to fix it? And you're like, here's how we're going to fix it. I did this and this and this. I'm like, cool, fixed, gone, see ya.
Yep.
You know, and it was over. And so there's like a little piece of kind of to come back to how do you let people grow? Man, when you trust people to like go run and make mistakes, you got to let them make them and then come back and not be mad about it. Right. It happened. It's okay. Like you wouldn't have grown. You wouldn't have thought I need to do this next or whatever if you didn't go run and make it. You know,
your response, I'm not trying to give you too much credit here, but like your response to that, the trust that was there, made me a better lawyer because then I wasn't afraid or like I wouldn't shy away from tough things or mistakes. Like, okay, I made a mistake. I'm going to own up to it. And like you said, here are our options how to fix it. We're going to fix it.
Right.
It's too easy to just shy away from things that you've messed up and hope it goes away. Like, I mean, that's why lawyers have jobs is because people don't communicate. And when there's an issue and they instead let the lawyers go deal with it, where if you just communicate what the problem is and don't run away from it, you don't have this existential dread that just surrounds it. You confront it and you work through it, which is a super simplistic way of how I like to look at problems. But
well, it dovetails into what Kev says. One of the things Kev says a lot was like, it's all about just fundamentals. Like you didn't say anything that like blew anyone's mind just then. It's super basic. It's a very fundamental thing, but we don't do it well. People don't do it well. And it's just executing your fundamentals saves you a lot of heartache and trouble at your company and then intercompany and then vertically and everything, you know? So.
I'm going to put both of you on the spot, but I'll start with you. You guys, yes. Yes, you could tee it up.
Okay.
You have like a 10 to 15 year difference, I'm assuming, in age.
Almost
10
exactly
exactly,
10.
10?
That's how I Stone Cold guessed when he graduated from high school. Because I knew he's 10
decade
years.
round 10.
Yeah.
Because of that age difference, y'all learned some things about working with each other. And what were some things, I'm going to start with you, that you learned from him because he comes from a different age?
Man, that's a really great question. I think we spent a lot of time talking about this because I've always felt sort of trapped between like the older lawyers and an old school like practice mentality. And I think it exists in the construction industry also, like the trapped between the old school mentality and a new crop of talented future lawyers that are coming in who really don't want to participate in the old model. Right. And so I'm stuck right in the middle. Lots of times what that meant for me was that I had to learn to alter the heat. Right. So it would come to me in a way that I was like, oh, God, that's awful. And then just take a deep breath and swallow it and then pass it down the line in a way that was intended to be passed down the line. Yep. Right. And so I always viewed my position as that weirdly trapped between generations as part of that is just being buffer man. Like I have to be the one who intermediates the response modality and the, organizational structure differences. So I just tried real hard to do it. And I would just be like, that's crazy, but Ian and I aren't going to communicate like that, and delete that email. Hey man, can you help me with this? Guys, right.
Yeah, you were always transparent with me and honest with me. There wasn't any like, hey, I'm going to sugarcoat this for you. It's, hey, here's what happened.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. I'm not going to practice this model of only telling you what you absolutely have to know to do your 9 to 5. Like I'm going to tell you the full picture so you can make a good decision and what's good for you.
Yeah. So that, and then like, I think the other part of, and then you can speak to all this, but the other part of it is I've just done I think a good job of just asking, like just listening, because I know how to like absorb the heat and deal with it and turn it, but I don't never really knew how I needed to be communicating it downstream. And so I just listened a lot to the things you were saying, the ways that you were communicating, to be like, I need to lean into that. Like if Ian thinks this is important, not because it's not about me. It's because in 10 more years, I'm leaving, and I need, like it began this like pyramidal structure where I was like, I need you to be amazing, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to listen and learn and lead that way, irrespective of the way I would do it or the way I want it done or the way it has been done to me. Right. And so I just have that. I don't know. That's what I would say. Your perspective is slightly different, I'm sure, but you're coming into a workforce, where lawyers wear ties and, what's your perspective across that scale?
Sure. It was a little bit different working with you a little bit, only because you gave me really good insight into what the next 5, 7, 10 years of practice would look like before I got there. And so you were an excellent person to bounce ideas off of. Whether it's like YCC Texo stuff or whether it's just practice, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, hey, I did that 7 years ago and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Or things like that. Just that sort of unbiased resource and wealth of information, just a repository of information. It's a contemporary wealth of information. It's not like, well, back in my day when I had to go down to the law library and check out a book, it's, hey, I did that. Didn't work well, or hey, here's a better way to look at things. And having someone who isn't, I don't want to say completely, totally older than you, but is relatively close to your age that you can bounce those ideas off of and talk in plain language and not have to worry about addressing a partner as sir or yes sir.
Yeah.
So, I still kind of got that habit a little bit. But having that sort of collegial person that you can talk to and bounce ideas off was invaluable.
Yeah.
How does all of that sound, translated to being in a construction office, like in the industry, not at the firm?
Very similar if you're trying to practice situational leadership. Like you're trying to be self-aware of not only what's going on internally, but like what are you valuing as somebody fresh out of college that I might not even know is a value? Like where is the pendulum swinging right now and what's important? Mm-hmm. And I think when you have that open communication, it's huge to figure out like what's important for Stewart if he works with me versus Ian might be completely different. And if I'm a situational leader, I need to address both, because one size doesn't fit all.
I'll tell you a really good example. I've never told you this before. A really good example is related to when you had MJ, when you had your baby. Mm-hmm. When we had William, and I've told you this, when we had William, I think I took off like 2 days. Like I just was like, that's just what we do. And you kind of got a little bit of scorn for being gone for 2 days. You should have taken off one because I had a baby on a weekend and would build 9 hours. Like that's sort of I knew that is not what you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. That was absolutely like this is where I am in my life, not what you want to do. And I was like, you do like whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. Right. Like I want you to have like the full experience of whatever it looks like for you. Mm-hmm. Period. Full stop.
And you and credit to the firm, like there was a paternity leave policy. And I said, yes, I'm going to take that. And so I took the entire month of leave that I was given and I spent that with my wife and baby. And it was a month that I have absolutely no regrets about spending at home.
Yeah. And you shouldn't.
And you did a good job insulating me against things like popping up on my radar. I would see you jump in and say, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And that was invaluable. Like I could never get that time back.
Even if in your head, it was still bothering you a little bit. Because
yes.
I know that, like, because I'm not a button seat guy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care if you're in your seat or not until I do start caring. Mm-hmm. Like, why is he never in his seat? And then all of a sudden, old man Kev starts creeping in. But I internalize it, or I talk to Stewie or a mentor about it. I just get it out or journal it or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that kind of goes to the point I was making earlier, which was there were moments during that month where I was like, what? Like, what?
Yep. I need him back.
And I knew, like, that is an old school mentality ingrained in my mind that my instinct is to, like, spit it out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, but stop. Like, that is really crappy leadership.
Yeah,
I never said a word, but there were moments where I was like, man, I didn't care. And I was just like, that's not where Ian lives right now. I'm not going to say anything. And it was just a fleeting moment where like someone had asked me something and I didn't know how to do it. And I was like, Ian was here. He'd take care of it.
Converting something to a PDF or
figuring out how to load printer paper. And, but yeah, the point I want to go back to is like, man, that was important to you. And I made sure you got it because I just had to like be in the middle and take it and take some of those like crazy antiquated thoughts that wanted to pop into my head. Be like, stop. Take that idea as a hostage and throw it away. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not how we're leading.
Growth on both sides.
Yes, man.
Because Ian's indicating to us where the pendulum's swinging, and we need to pay attention because he's more right than we are.
Yes. Well, and that's some of the stuff I want to talk about is like the pendulum swing of it, because again, I'm in the middle, but folks a little bit old, 10 years older than me, they are early up, early grind, stay at the office all night long. Like if you don't turn the lights off, you didn't do it right. That's not how we practice.
Sure.
And I'm sort of in the middle because I was up early, but would leave at the spin the wheel to go take.
You'd wake up at 4:30 to go make sure that William got the cross country on time, and then you get to the office, and then have to go across town to meet Kevin for lunch, and then drop off a check.
Right. Yeah. All those things.
I never got any of those checks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It wasn't a slight. That's a joke about how there used to be these wheels. There weren't wheels at the office where you would just spin them to figure out where I was going. There was not a slice on one of the wheels about bring Kevin a check.
Dang it.
Sorry.
I think those are two different slices, but I was just trying to dad joke them together.
Meet Kevin to bring him a check. Yeah. But like from your perspective, like talk through like what's important. Like I don't know how to start that conversation other than to say like, boy, it all felt real hot during COVID.
Yeah.
All of the like dichotomy between an old school approach and a new school approach, and what was important and what wasn't important, and where we needed to be and where we didn't need to be. Boy, those felt real hot in that moment. So like, let's start there, Luke.
Yeah. I'm going to even back up even further. So after I moved firms, in May of 2019 and followed you, there was the inclination to want to go crush it. Like really like get there. And as a private practice lawyer, like you're crushing it if you're billing a bunch of hours. Like you're there, you're billing a bunch of hours, and you're continuing and you're networking and things like that. And so I practiced for about, I guess, 6 to 7 months, and then COVID happened. And so I'm pushing pretty hard at this point. There's no baby in the picture. My wife was working really hard too. She was working from home at that point already. But then COVID happened, and it kind of changed the practice mix a little bit, because there was a healthy mix between, home life, billing hours, and then professional development, marketing, building relationships, things like that. And then it all got jumbled around. It got scrambled. And so when we were working from home, there was home life working from home, and then the building relationships got put on pause to some extent, which was hindsight. That wasn't a smart thing, but it got put on pause. And so I would wake up, I would walk to my computer, and I would bill hours all day, and then I would stop and I would be exhausted. And that sort of work grind went on for a while, and it got to be really tiring. And then that became the normal for a while, and that wasn't something that I was super used to. And that was tough. That was really tough to do, and it was tough to maintain. Stewart and I had an arbitration during the middle of that. And in that time, I really questioned whether being a private practice lawyer is something I wanted to do long term. And this isn't confidential. I mean, we had a lot, Stewart and I, I'm looking at Stewart, we had a lot of talks about, man, is this what practice is now? And the short of it is, I don't know. I mean, things never really slowed down after we all, quote unquote, went back from COVID and the pandemic. The mix of hours stayed the same. So the billables were still really high. But then you were expected to do everything else too. Like you were expected to go out and keep building relationships and maintain network and develop a book of business. And so your family got not pushed to the side, but they got pushed to the side a little bit. And there was a period of time earlier this year where I would just get home and be exhausted. And it wasn't a fun place to be.
Yeah. This is coming out of COVID?
Coming out of COVID. I just never really got the balance back that I had pre-COVID. Because there was that drive to crush it, and people were happy when you crushed it. And so you kind of live off those gold stars a little bit, which is great. Like, it feels good when you do really good. And there is a monetary interest in that. But after a while, you're just tired and you're teetering on the edge of burnout for a long time. And when I would come home, like my wife and I would just be exhausted. We would just kind of sit on the couch and watch television, which was kind of a bummer. And then we pretty much, at that point, I'm like, well, I can't do this forever. And so I tried to pull back a little bit, but it was increasingly difficult to pull back, because when you're accustomed to providing a certain level of service to a certain number of people all hours during the day, you can't just turn it off right away. And that it became very tough to sustain. When you go on vacation and you're always on, that's a tough place to be.
Yeah. Well, what did you two watching TV used to be what before that? Like what you were out
just doing different things, date nights, things like that. And that's not to say we didn't do that. Just I would be tired. Like I would come home mentally drained. And I wouldn't be giving time to the things I need to give time to. Like I used to take French lessons and I couldn't take those anymore. I used to bowl on Thursday nights and I didn't bowl on Thursday nights anymore. Which I feel like that's a whole topic that we've skipped over.
That. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna
come back
Is that
to
something
bowling.
You didn't know?
Oh no, I knew.
No, I should have worn my Letterman jacket, which we'll talk about.
Letterman jacket.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bowling Letterman jacket?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
You're talking to All District Bowler of the Year in 2007 and All District First Team for 4 years. Little bit.
GIF of the back padding apparatus.
Insert GIF here.
But I mean, kind of to put a pin on all that, just I got tired, man. It was tough.
So I have wrestled with this and I have no answer. I don't think I've asked you this, so you may not have an answer or whatever. But like as I look back through that period, which was COVID, crazy, slammed, all like everything scrambled together, I can't identify where it tipped wrong, and I can't identify what I would have done differently to have kept it from happening. I mean, have you had that? Like pontificated on that enough to say like, oh, this was it. I
mean, in my time off, I've thought about it a lot more, which may be spoiler alert for something we'll talk about. But I haven't really figured it out. I think we just, through technology, through like remote hearings and remote conferences, we became more efficient at what we did.
Yeah.
And so we were doing more things. There's this whole conversation about how does technology help lawyers, and it helps us become more efficient, but that doesn't change at the end of the day. We're expected to bill hours in private practice.
Man, you want to linger on that now, or you got a secondary thought to it? No, just keep going, because you're talking about how we just kept burning, like doing more.
But you become more efficient at not burning hours, like billing hours, and you're still billing hours. You're just doing so many more things. So maybe this is me getting over my skis, but in the olden practice, you would focus on a discrete issue. You would work on that issue. You would draft a motion. You would go to the law library if you had to. You would consult Westlaw or Lexis, which are search engines, and you would figure out that item. Now, with all this technology, you're enabled to be hyper efficient at what you do. So you can find answers really quickly. So you can work on 5, 6, 7 different things in a day. And having to train your brain to do that many different things and address this client's biggest issue for 5 to 7 different clients in a day, that's really exhausting from a mental standpoint.
Because those quote unquote down periods were still billable back in the day.
Yeah. So
like the drive time, the filing.
So let's just rewind 10 years, right? I'm representing a client and a motion has been filed and there's a hearing down at the courthouse, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the prep work to get ready, let's just say held equal, but it's not really because of the research component. But like I got ready for the hearing, but then I needed to leave like 2 hours before the hearing because I needed to drive up to Denton County and find a place to park and then, go eat lunch at the Stars and Stripes Cafe or whatever.
That's in the federal courthouse in Fort Worth with the bacon trough.
Yes, there's a bacon trough. If you're looking for a trough of bacon and you're in Fort Worth, go stop by the Stars and Stripes Cafe. In any event, so then you have like 2 hours of time and you're just in the car. You're thinking about what you're going to do when you get there. Then you wait for your hearing, right? And they like cattle call it. So there's like 12 hearings all at once and you're sitting in the back and thinking, oh man, I forgot I need to take that note. Right. Then they call the hearing. It lasts 20, 30, 40, whatever. You pack all your stuff up, get in the car, 2 hours back to the office. You build all that time, right? And there's lots of like downtime baked in and thinking time baked in, et cetera. In 2022, the way that happens is you get an email from the court coordinator at your desk. You click OK, you jump into a Zoom, you're in the hearing, you close it out, and you move on to the next thing. And so you've like through that efficiency divested generations of lawyers of like the thinking time that they had baked in. And so you either have and transmute that to like a widget maker, right? So if say it takes an hour to build a widget and I sell it for $1, if I can figure out how to make that widget in half the amount of time, then I'm still selling them for $1, right? But when you're in a model that is time-based, hourly-based, fee-based, the efficiency is not caught in there. Like I did it faster, so do 2 more so that you can make the same amount of money.
It's what's the prize for winning the pie eating contest?
Yeah, more pie.
More pie.
Yeah. And so it just begins to like spin faster and faster and faster. And if you rewind that story back, 30 years or not even that far, when I started practicing law,
30 years.
No, almost 20. When I started practicing law, we had email, but nobody really used it, right? Like I didn't have email on my phone for sure. And so every day someone would grab the mail, walk it to the copy machine, make it, duplicate it out so we could file the originals, bring the letters to your desk and be like, oh, somebody filed a motion today. Okay. right? Oh, there's a communication from opposing counsel. Boy, he's really upset about something. Okay, I'll respond to that tomorrow. As opposed to now, it's just like ding, 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 ding. But laying on top of that, every one of those dings is the most important problem that anybody has ever had, and they couldn't solve it on their own, and they're asking you for help.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it is a pressure cooker of intensity, man.
Mm-hmm. It spirals. It's the spiral effect. Like once it starts going, there's this, was it entropy where it just, or inertia, where it just keeps going and going and going. And there's this cliche that, hey man, after I get through this, it's going to slow down a little bit. It never did. Like it never slowed down. It just kept going and going and going. And credit where credit's due, like the support team that we had, like you and Barry and Shara, like that's the only reason we stayed above water.
Oh yeah.
Because if it was any just one of us by ourselves, like it would have been impossible to manage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's why some of those are bear traps. When I make it to this checkpoint, I'm going to reduce this or start this.
It's a fallacy.
It's like, no, now, today.
Yep.
Start it now.
And then once you get done with it, you have 5 other things that have come up while you were doing that you got to do.
If I just hire that next person, I'll stop working 16 hours a day. No, you won't.
Yep.
It's programmed. It's a habit you need to break, and you need to break down.
All right, I want to rewind because you have a cool story about meeting your wife. You share it?
Oh, yeah, I'll share it.
Tell us.
So I was getting ready to go to college in 2006, 2007. And that was back when the OG original Facebook was just becoming a thing.
Was it called The Facebook?
I think it had just changed from thefacebook.com to Facebook.
You could only have it if you were in college.
Yes.
Right?
So once you were in high school and you got your college email, you were cool and you could have a Facebook. So once I got my @ou.edu email, you know what I did immediately. I can't post on LinkedIn. I'm delighted to announce. So I would, you get on Facebook and you sign up for Facebook at the time. And it's kind of a fun story, but you would try to meet, like you could figure out who was in your graduating class in college. So you say, Oklahoma class of 11, and you could go scroll through that list of people and figure out who was there. And so I'm on Facebook, and then like you message random people, and then I get a message from this girl, and she just says, "Hey." I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" And then I didn't get any response. I'm like, "Okay, that's fine."
You thought it was a bot?
I don't think bots were big at that time. It's like ghosting before ghosting was a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think anything of it. Fast forward 3.5 years. It's the fall of 2010.
3.5 years of silence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Silence.
Long
and
ghosting.
So I start talking to this girl named Hannah. We have a lot of mutual interests. We have mutual friends, but we've never really hung out in the same friend circles. And so
when you say talking, you mean like IRL talking?
IRL talking. So not like this was right before all the apps became popular with dating.
Yeah.
So we met the old school way through some mutual friends, and just we ran in the same friend circles.
Sure.
And we didn't meet at bars per se, but like various establishments around the University of Oklahoma. So we started hanging out more, and then we started dating a little bit, and then I think it's probably 3 or 4 months into the we'll back up. Within 6 weeks of dating, we knew like, okay, this is it. Like we knew at that point, so we got a dog, which is a big commitment. After 6 weeks of dating, dog is still around, by the way. Poseidon, he's the best. Anyway, 4 or 5 months later, I'm like, hey, did you message me on Facebook when you realized you got into OU? And she's like, yeah, I think I did. And so we went back and scrolled through old messages, and we found the message. I think it's gone in the ether now. But technically, I guess I met my wife through Facebook.
Yeah, let's
go way back when.
Yeah.
But she was just hounding you, and you finally
finally I responded.
Twisted your wrist, like, all right.
I finally took the hint, which I was oblivious to. But yeah, so we started dating then, and we dated for a long time. She was very patient. She's been my rock forever. But she stuck with me through law school. There came a point where I thought I was going to go to California for law school, hence the intellectual property comment. And then I came to my better senses and like, no, I got everything I need here, especially because my future wife's here.
Yeah.
Went to Oklahoma, got a job down in Dallas. And then within, I think 3 months, I proposed to my wife because she got a job down here too. And we knew that this is where we wanted to be. So proposed to her then, and then we've been married. We just celebrated our 7th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
I'm still waiting for my RSVP for my wedding, Stewart.
Yeah, tell that story.
So I had sent, at the time, baby lawyer, didn't know, but I did send Stewart a wedding invite to my wedding. I'm thinking, this is going to be great. Like, I'll invite the partners at the firm to my wedding just because I assume that's what you do. So I sent all the partners a wedding invite, and none of them RSVP'd, Stewart included.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah.
Like, what's funny is I've it's one of those stories you tell me, but I don't really remember it. But obviously, it's true. I don't even remember getting it.
You probably just threw it away. Like, oh, this is clearly not.
I am in my pinstripe suit. How dare him bother me?
In my ivory corner office tower.
Yeah, my big corner office. I don't have time for this riffraff. Get it out of here.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Ian? Who's Ian?
Lan is my favorite misspelling. Because, yeah.
Anyway. Lan. I love it.
So we had a neighbor.
You see, because the capital I looks like a lowercase L. You see?
Oh, light bulb.
Yeah.
There you go, fish.
You would be surprised how much I still get Lan every now and then. I get Ian a lot too.
Yeah, those are both silly and wrong.
It is what it is. You can call me whatever you want.
I prefer Ian.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
All right. Tell me about having a baby. I mean, we're going all over the place here, man. Come on.
Yeah. So, post-COVID, I guess we're not really post-COVID, but as COVID was kind of coming to a lull, wife and I knew we wanted to have kids, and we just we had let our careers go for a while before we decided now's the time. And we're very lucky. We had a baby in November of 2021, Maddie Jean Fullington. She is absolutely incredible. We just celebrated our first birthday with her recently. It was a really fun one. But it is
smash cake.
Yep, and she didn't smash. She just kind of poked at it.
Man,
she didn't know what to do with it. We're the parents who don't give our kid a ton of sweets, and so we thought she's going to go crazy. Like, she's going to think it's amazing, and she just kind of poked at it. Yeah, and that was it. They had little cookies on top. She was more interested in banging those together. But man, she's great. Like, some of the best times of my day is when because I try to get her up. I get her up every single morning, say hi to her, change her, and then I want to make sure I'm there to put her down every single night. Yeah. And I will not compromise on that under any circumstance. But part of all that is I love seeing her wake up in the morning. Just being there, the first thing she sees, her face lights up, and she knows who I am. I think a little to my wife's chagrin, she does know who Dada is, and she will say Dada. When my car pulls in the driveway, I see her crawl to the back door, and then she starts banging on the glass, and I hear Dada from outside, which is a really fun feeling.
Oh, yeah.
But she's the best. Since I've been home a little bit recently, I've got to witness some milestones. So she's now standing independently, and she's on the precipice, we think, of taking her first steps. Yeah. Which is a pretty cool. It's actually very cool.
Which quickly turns to running, full-blown sprints everywhere.
Oh, no. Like, she crawls
just
everywhere
corner
now.
guards on everything.
Oh, you should see our dining room table. Our coffee table has like this thick foam around the edge. Yeah. We thought it was a great idea until like the first day. What does our baby do? She tries to chew it.
Chews it off, yeah. Right.
Yeah, she tries to chew it. And we're like, oh, Maddie, come on.
Oh, dude. I had to build, we have a stone fireplace. I had to build like a box with upholstery that goes over it and slides over it. Cause that's the one thing I couldn't childproof like easily. And she's like, that's where I'm going every single time.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time.
We have a big brick mantle, and it's not as fancy as it sounds. It's brick. It's not some like luxurious marble or something. But she likes to hold on to it, and I've caught her a couple times trying to climb onto it. So we can't have a fire, and I have to keep her off of it. And the other thing she loves to do, she loves to try to climb in the dog's kennel. Yeah. She has all the toys in the world. She has her own room. She has a playpen, but she loves climbing in that dog's kennel.
Do you have Snapchat?
I do not.
No.
I'm too old for that.
Oh, well, then I have a problem.
Then never mind. Sorry.
The only reason I keep it is the only person I talk to on it at this point is my wife. But every day I get this day 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and those are freaking precious when they pop in. That's what I go look for, either ESPN or that. And see what happened 3 years ago, and it's like, man. Awesome.
I will catch myself just scrolling through pictures of my baby on my phone. Yeah. I don't even know how I got there. I'm looking at like, oh, she was born this day. And like, oh yeah, I remember that. Or that's funny. She came back like in the hospital. She had to go get her blood sugar tested every 3 hours, and they would take her away and come back. And every time she'd have a different hat on. And we thought it was the funniest thing ever. Yeah. She would just somehow lose her hat. Later did we realize she hates things on her head. She won't wear a bow. She won't wear like a scarf, or she won't wear like anything on her head at all. And so everyone calls her a boy, but she's a girl. But we realized then, like, even as a tiny baby, she had this attitude. She'd just take her hat off immediately.
And even if you're traveling for work, technology is there, FaceTime and all that, where you could still, like, in those desperate moments, take her to bed kind of thing, which I've had to use for travel. But that's a great, like non-negotiable in your life. Like if hell or high water, you're going to be there.
Absolutely. And I can count on, I think, on the one, maybe two hands the number of nights I've not been there to tuck her in.
Have you two left her with somebody yet for a personal not a personal trip, just
No.
like a couple's trip?
We haven't yet.
You having it?
No. We were supposed to around this time. We were supposed to actually go to Montreal, Vermont, but we couldn't get her a passport appointment in time.
Your wife?
My baby. So
No, I mean, have you left without her yet?
my wife?
No, the baby.
No, like we were no, we haven't. We might soon, but we'll see.
Newsflash, he just explained that story to you.
Well, no, the passport
No, he's right.
Maddie's traveling as well.
Yep, he's right. I fumbled that a little bit.
I'll just cut that out.
No, that needs to stay in.
I don't edit them anymore.
Oh, you don't?
No, it's all going
full
for
send.
Full send.
Okay.
Yeah. I got time to edit. This is uncut.
Usually the awkward stuff is
It's the end of the
funny
season. It's like
anyway.
whatever. We'll just leave it at this point.
At this point, we don't have any listeners anyway. It's just kind of a charade Kevin and I do.
That's okay. It makes you happy, so happy to be here.
Do you still have the hilarious picture of Maddie on your phone?
Which hilarious picture?
It was your background of like her terrible faces all jumbled together.
No, I got this better one now. Hold on.
Yeah, look at this. You'll get a chuckle out of this one, Kev.
I have this like
Yeah, that.
yes. You got to turn them into socks.
Oh yeah, well it's similar, but yeah, like I have this one.
Yeah.
And then I had one where my wife hated it, but it was a little zoomed in on her face and it made her look like she had a giant forehead. So like my wife hated that one. So I think she's happy about this one. But she saw Santa recently. Shout out to Justin at Demo Company for getting the best Santa that we went and visited. Unfortunately, Maddie was just hysterical the whole time.
Oh, she got no
I mean, it's
time
great,
for-
right?
yeah.
The crying
that's
Santa
the perfect
picture.
one.
It's the best. But she did not. She has a major stranger danger with Santa. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, those are good pictures though. Like you'll come, like
I go to that one all the time.
You'll come back to him.
I could show you.
William turned 15 week before last, and he's still kind of a big baby in some regards. So in the evenings, like he'll come, like just hop in bed with us, watch TV or whatever, just kind of being an enormous teenager. And the week of his birthday, we got to tell him like stories, right? Like, what's your favorite story? Just recounting all these things that you're experiencing right now, and just had an awesome, funny trip down memory lane of all the things that you're taking pictures of right now. So they're awesome now, but they'll be awesome in the future too.
My wife does this really fun thing where she takes one picture a day.
Oh yeah.
Are you familiar with
Yes.
this? Like picture a day. And so she had for Maddie's first birthday, she put on a loop, it was just really cool. She's way more dedicated to these cool things than I am. She had a picture of every day of Maddie's life and we played it in a slideshow. And it's pretty cool because kind of like you said, but this is on a much more micro scale. Like, oh yeah, I remember when she did that.
Yeah.
Or I remember when she was wearing her bunting and looked really goofy. Or we had a snow day and she hated making snow angels or things like that.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Yep. It all passed. Kevin, I've said this 100 times. It passes so quick. You know, I've told you that too.
She's
man.
already getting big and it makes me a little bit sad because she's a baby, full stop. She's not a tiny baby anymore.
Right.
Like she's starting to do toddler things. Like she'll start to just like remove food from her mouth she obviously doesn't like anymore, which is like, okay, you liked quesadillas last week. Why don't you like quesadillas anymore?
Yeah.
Or she just has like the other day we were at breakfast and she had a piece of toast. She wasn't eating it, but if we took it away from her, she would start crying immediately. So, okay, Maddie, you can have your comfort toast. Like we're not going to take that away from you.
I missed the 6 month through 2 year, man.
Oh,
That was awesome.
I do not.
She's a lot
Really?
of fun right now.
Oh, it was awesome.
She's a lot of fun
Yeah.
because she will start getting like on these laughing fits. Like I know what can set her off like laughing. She thinks like my beard's the funniest thing right now. And so she'll like go to touch it and she just will start belly laughing like crazy or just like holding her. I'm not shaking my baby, but like holding her upside down. She thinks the funniest thing ever. She'll just start smiling and laughing.
We do a deal where it's really hard now, but we would say we would shake the grumpy out of you. And so if the kids are being grumpy, like I'd just pick them up by their feet and like kind of just wiggle them around a little bit and shake the grumpy out. Hilarious. Kids loved it so much. And now it's really hard because William's like 6'1".
Yeah, you're on a ladder. Hanging them from the gutter.
Yeah. But also, I guess what I'm really saying is I used to shake my babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I preface mine with I'm not shaking my baby.
I think I did actually.
Because you knew a certain somebody was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. They turned out fine. All right. We're ping pong. You got some. I'm just ping pong and go.
No, I'll continue the ping pong. And you mentioned Justin Hilton.
Mhm.
So YCCer, I'm
Yeah, there
assuming
you
you
go.
met him through there. You've been dedicated, fully dedicated. serving there and kind of the same trajectory as us. It gives you a ton of value and then you want to pay it forward, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to open that up to that journey. Like, how long have you been the Young Constructors Council? What has it meant to you? Relationships built from it, everything.
I like starting there. One day Stewart called me into his office and said, you either do the short straw or the long straw, depending on how you look at it. And that was when Stewart told me and said, you're going to join YCC. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I had no idea what it was. And perfectly honest, like for a couple years in YCC, I don't really think I understood the value of it.
Yeah.
I just understood, I'm going to build a network and build relationships and I want to hurry up and meet decision makers. And it really wasn't until like switching firms and then especially during COVID, I understood the value of those connections and that network and the relationship building. And that's when I really leaned into YCC at that point. I wanted to, I've met a lot of great people through there, people who I consider friends more so than just like industry connections. And I've worked to deepen those relationships. Again, it was really tough during COVID. I tried to lean into the ones who I'd already made at that point. Like Kyle Kelly has been on here. He's been one of my best friends I've made through YCC, and he's moved on to, I think he was an EDP, and I think he's on the board too.
Yeah. Right. And Kyle on the board?
All the things.
Yeah. Right. Kyle is the nicest, coolest guy you'll ever know.
Yeah.
But I've met him through there. I've met a lot of really good people through there. And I guess it was last year, I'm like, okay, I need to be on steering committee. And so I was membership vice chair this past year. And then this coming year, I'll be membership chair. And being on steering committee has even reinforced how important it is. And just seeing how the sausage is made. That's a really crude thing to see, seeing how the sausage is made. But seeing that and seeing other people who are as passionate about like building relationships as you are.
That's right.
Really, it's that's an inertia effect too. Like, because when you get around people who are like-minded and value that, like you want to go run through a wall. Like you want to go do all the cool things, and you want to go, help them out in any way you possibly can. And so just making those connections, making industry connections like that, meeting people, understanding their experience and how they got there, has really been invaluable. Like that. Having not had it during COVID really underscored the importance of it to me. Missing out on some of that made me realize what an important mix of my life that was.
Yeah.
And so it is an invaluable component to all of this.
And how big is the steering committee today? So it's in
like
the
90
teens.
people, I think now.
I think it's close to like 25 people.
25.
Man, it's big.
That was the size of the Young Constructors Council when Stewie and I met. And I think that's the challenge that most people face when you're entering the YCC today, that it's probably going to be 300 now this year or north of 300, is you got to cut through that with some intentionality where you're just going to show up, leave, kind of like the big church and probably not plant any seeds. But if you serve on that steering committee, most likely everybody that's there wants to be there. They weren't voluntold and stayed there because their boss said so. They're like, no, I'm in on this, and I want to take that next step.
You're not just getting your 2 drink tickets and going. Like you are there because you want to be there.
That's right.
Like one of my really good friends who I've made over the last year or so, Chris Countryman at Calterra, like what a great guy.
Oh yeah.
And I would not have known Chris, but for going to a small group meeting one day, and we started talking about Cedar Creek Lake, and he loves Cedar Creek Lake. And ever since then, like we've just hit it off, and I had coffee with him recently. Great dude. And I've got to know Chase at Calterra a little bit more. But just that intentionality, like you mentioned, you have to, like, what you put into it is what you get out of it. Like that's cliche and it's said over and over, but it's absolutely true. Totally. Go to the small groups, and then that, like, there's a whole bunch of people I met just through those small groups who I still keep in touch with too.
And you get to try some things on for size. You way more so than I did it, of free leadership. Like all right, I'm going to lead this 300 person group, and if I fail, there's not like professional repercussions from it. I get to try this stuff and see if it works. And if it works well here, maybe I can implement it at the firm or construction company or wherever I'm at.
No, it's great. And Ashland will save your butt too if you fail at anything in YCC.
Oh, the Texas staff is the best it's ever been. They're crushing it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, YCC has been an invaluable opportunity for me. And man, like I drew the long straw that day.
I was just thinking, I actually remember that day. I remember that conversation. I remember saying that, or I don't know if I actually remember saying it or you saying it back to me those years, but it could have well been the short straw. You had both.
It could have been both for him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you made it the long straw.
That's right.
Like you made it the long straw. So, and you did a great job, like just leaning into that thing, man.
Sounds like a classic Stewart texting his son sort of statement.
What's that?
You're always sending them motivational stuff that they're rolling their eyes at.
Oh yeah.
you kind of hit him with that one face to face. You got the long one and the short one. You pick. Here we go. Another Stewieism.
Yeah, the other day I hit Hayes with one. So they're all texting and stuff, right? And so I hit him after, like, before a game or something.
Just coming in hot.
No. And I was just like, something like, you want the pep talk or something like that? And he was like, I'm here for the pep talk. I was like, all right.
Here it comes.
Wearing out your thumbs. There's smoke coming through your phone.
Just wearing it out. Truth be told, I had already, like, typed it up and I just cut and pasted it in and hit send because it didn't matter what he said. He was getting it.
Oh, that's cute. You thought you had a choice.
Yeah, no. No, I do blow him up. Both of them. Stella's son too. Now she has this Gab watch. You know the Gab watch?
No, that's technology beyond my years.
Do you know the Gab watch, Kev?
No idea what you're talking about.
It's like an Apple iWatch or whatever, but for kids, and all you can do is just like text two people and call your mom in an emergency, right? But it's GPS tracking, so I know where she's.
It's like a jitterbug watch.
It's the
jitterbug of watches.
Other side of the jitter. Yes, but it's like a jitterbug. Anyway, so Stella's on the list now. I'm just like, hey, just pinging her with all the goofy dad stuff too. So she's like, she's ending.
So just one final point on the YCC. What do you recommend to somebody that's listening that's either just getting started or thinking about joining the program? Like, what are your words of wisdom to that group of people?
Get involved with it.
Period.
Like, go to the meetings. Don't just get your drink tickets are great. Try to meet a couple people each time. I know it's weird to get outside your comfort zone, and it's easy just to stick with people in your company who are there. Like, that's super easy to do. But not to spoil anything, but like, we are trying to be intentional on steering committee and mixing things up, like having you meet people at other companies, having you meet people in different, whether you're a GC, you're going to meet some subs, you're going to meet a supplier, you're going to meet, unfortunately, you may meet a lawyer there. Shame. Go to those, like, it's weird to say, go to the small groups. I almost think those are as valuable, if not more so, than some of those monthly meetings, because you meet people who want to be there too. Mm-hmm. You don't go to the small group because it's required. You go there because you want to be there. And I have met some of my best friends in YCC just through the intentionally going to those small groups, staying, having a beer, just getting to know somebody's current experience, like what's bugging them on their job right now, or, what cool thing did they do this past weekend? Did they just have a kid, or are they about to have a kid? Things like that. And it's through those conversations, and then, through just texting with people, you get to make some of your really close industry friends.
Most of that's timeless. Really, because that would be the same thing we would recommend minus the small groups. You just didn't need it when we had it, but pretty timeless wisdom there.
Mm-hmm. And something we've tried to do with YCC is kind of get back to some of the roots that you had. And I don't want to call it the coolers of beer drinking, but like basically we tried to make some of the core meetings that we have throughout the year, like we're centered around you meeting somebody there.
Yeah.
You're going to hear the really cool talk that Jesse Itzler is going to give. And you're going to see the Bring Your Intern event that's going to be amazing. And there's going to be 350 people in a room. But just like getting down to it and meeting someone there and just like bonding over something that you didn't know you had in common. That's what those meetings are about. Like,
yep.
100%.
I'll add one little, you're going to say, yeah, you've said that before, but I'll add on top of that is like all those little nuggets you're picking up from people, like Countryman Loves the Lake, right? I would try, it was real selfish at the time. I was trying to pick up those little nuggets so that I could like make deeper connections and next time follow up and be like, hey man, you been at the lake lately or whatever? And I realized after I'd picked up all those little nuggets that the most valuable part was being able to share them with other people. Cause they'd be like, oh, Chris, you love the lake. Hey, Kevin loves the lake too. Y'all should like that sort of like connecting outside of myself. Man, like that but in the YCC context, like a game changer. Like I started to value having all the nuggets and being able to put them together for other people, not for me. I want you to know that guy. He loves a lake.
That's your super connector skill.
Yeah. Yes. Somehow I don't forget all that stuff, but
I don't know how you remember all that.
Oh man. I'll be like, oh yeah, Blaine Allen lives in so-and-so and he did such and such and his wife is whatever. And you're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Just remember your mind Rolodex.
Yes. Yeah. It's a superpower. It's a stupid power.
I love seeing that. Because it happened firsthand for me of selfish motives become completely selfless once you gather it. Like, okay, this isn't about me whatsoever.
No. All right. So we got a few more points on our prep sheet here, but I definitely, you had written some stuff about mentorship and your perspective and viewpoint on that. when I look back through what you had written, I think, well, I don't know if we hit it on all fours or not. It's not on the paper. It's what we were texting about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have more to say about that, or is that like
Just it's something that I've become increasingly passionate about the more, like, not as I transition in my career a little bit, but maybe as I get to be a little bit older, and I have been given the benefit of great mentorship. And it's not something that I feel like a lot of people get. And so having had that, I want to give that to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm not going to get it right, but having had the benefit of really good mentors, both at other, at the firms I've worked at, or even outside of that, just people who I can bounce ideas off of, like that's something that's become very, very, very near and dear to me. Is I want to make sure that I make somebody else's life better and easier because I've had the experience that could benefit them. And I've been lucky to work with some people over my limited time that I've been able to help mentor people who've been very receptive to that. Something that I really like to do that was, I don't know if I came up with this or maybe something that we have talked about, is I'm the dumb question hotline.
Mm-hmm.
And so something I offer new hires, interns, anything like that is I am your dumb question hotline. There's nothing that you're going to ask me that I'm going to have any sort of judgmental response about. As a baby lawyer, especially working in like a special field like construction, and if you don't have the background in it, there's a lot you don't know.
Oh man.
There's so much you don't know. And there's a lot I don't know, frankly. But there's a lot of questions out there that to us, it's like, yeah, I know what a mechanic's lien is. Like, yeah, I deal with that all the time. I can tell you exactly what section of Chapter 53 to look at.
Right.
But if you've never done one before and someone comes to you with a question about it, you're deer in the headlights. You have no idea. And so I like to be that resource for, whether it's someone I work with or even not, anyone listening has a dumb construction lawyer question. I'm more than happy to be that resource. And there's no judgment there because that was provided to me and I want to provide that to somebody else. And so that's something I really like to do. And just being a sounding board and checking in with people. Like I don't want like an intern or a new associate or even just a lateral hire to not know what's going on or feel like they're on an island. Like I'm going to check in with you and see how things are going. And I'm going to have a tough conversation with you right away. Like, are you happy? Like, do you think everything's going okay? And you can tell me, and I'm not going to there's no repercussions about it. If there's something that you wish we had done different, I want to know that.
Yeah.
So I can fix it now. And I don't want it to linger and fester for a year. And so when performance review or end of the year comes up, like you're just mad about something.
Yeah, you got blindsided.
Yeah, because a lot of the things that sometimes would frustrate me were things that I would either not verbalize or I would verbalize and they would fall on deaf ears. Basically, like, oh yeah, that's a problem. So I want people who are associates or interns who have an issue to feel empowered to say something to try to change that. And I want their active feedback. And I think that helps build trust too. And so I'm rambling a little bit, but
now you're snapping. That is good
the
stuff.
long answer to your question is it's something that's really, really important to me is to be a resource for others. We talk a little bit, and this is, I'm going to pull it together really nicely now about like, what's your why? And YCC. Like, what's your why? Why are you doing this? And for a long time is I want to build a stable financial platform for my family, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think as a young person, like you want to do that. You want to get a house. You want to be set. But as I've evolved a little bit in my career and I've been fortunate to have that stable background, I want to help be a good mentor to others. And I want to help build relationships with others. And whether that's through mentorship or otherwise, I really enjoy the mentorship part of it. Like that's my why now. I want to be a resource for others. And even if it's something I don't know, I want to know someone who can help you out there.
Yep.
And so my why right now, and I don't remember if it was something I read or heard about earlier this year, but like your why can change. It's not crystallized. And I didn't appreciate that until I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I don't have to have my mission statement apply to my whole life right now. But my why right now, as I'm kind of moving along in my career, is I want to help mentor others to get to where I am because I've been fortunate to have the benefit of the doubt, have doors open for me. I'll be very honest, like I had a very fortunate upbringing. And so I have that benefit and I want to try to use my privilege to help others out the best I can.
Yeah. I love that because your whys, your updated, revised whys, your improved whys, I would say, are leading you to this like ultimate purpose that it's going to, I could just see it growing and it's going in that direction. It's really fun to see, man.
I appreciate that.
That's all I have.
The all of that evolution results in 5 weeks off.
Yes,
and it headed somewhere new. So talk me through it, man.
So, man, it's been kind of a whirlwind second half of the year for me. And I'm not gonna say anything I shouldn't, but I was a lifer in private practice. I knew that I wanted to be a private practice lawyer for my career. That was where I was going to be. But there's always a but. There was one particular job out there that I was always really interested in with one particular company. And I think I'd even told you a year ago, like, I'm here, but if they ever offer me a job, I'm going to take that job.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird foreshadowing. But I pushed really hard for partner for a long time, went on vacation in early October, and I just got blown up the entire vacation with lawyer stuff. And that's, like I said, I had been pretty drained by that point. I'm pretty tired, man. And then Stewart had left us at that point, and so I was very tired at that point.
Missing the buffer.
I know. I didn't have that lifeline, but I was tired, and I told my wife, like, man, I don't know if I want to do this forever. Like, this is just exhausting. I don't want to be, because I'm on vacation, rural Colorado, being told I have a court. I'm supposed to be at a hearing in 2 hours. What am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? And in that moment, you're just helpless. Mm-hmm. And, major shout out to Barry Brooks for picking up the slack there. Like, he's a lifesaver. But internally, I'm just like, I don't want to always be worried that I'm going to be summoned to court within 2 hours, no matter where I am. Like, that's just not sustainable. Kind of mulled on that for a minute. And then I get a call 2 or 3 days later from a really good friend in-house for Moss and Associates, saying, hey, you want to talk? And 3 weeks later, we met, and I had signed an offer sheet to go in-house with Moss and Associates, working with some of my really good friends in the industry. Shout out to Carson. It's an incredible opportunity that I'm extremely excited for. It's a company that very much aligns with my values, building relationships, and they do really interesting, unique work throughout the area. I've had the benefit of working with them for 3 years now, and something that really draws me to the company is that a lot of people will talk about the values that their company has and espouse that, but I see that executed on a daily basis, and people don't leave. In an era with extremely high turnover in the industry, like, people don't leave, and that's a really good sign of a healthy company. When people are valued, people are listened to, and they're happy where they are. Like, that's kind of a golden goose in a way.
Yeah. And there's no better walk the talk guy than Josh Carson.
Oh, I know.
Oh, for sure.
I'm really excited to work with him on a daily basis. He's so busy, but I'm excited to work with him and get to know him better, know all the folks in that Dallas office, and even their headquarters in Fort Lauderdale, even better. Man, it's such an exciting opportunity, and something that really gets us started off on the right foot. As I was talking with them around the time I accepted the gig, and they're like, okay, you need to deprogram and decompress for a while. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to take a little time off. And I'm thinking, okay, a couple weeks, what's it going to be? It's like, how about December? How about you just take a month off? I'm like, okay, I've never done that before in my entire career. I've never just taken a month off of work. And then it even turned into 5 weeks. It's like, well, January 2nd is a little close to the first of the year, so why don't we start you on the 9th? So, long way of saying I start with Moss on the 9th of January. I have to resist the urge to go do everything right now, because I really want to, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying this time that I've been provided to just kind of deprogram a little bit, spend time with my family. And I'm just really thankful for the opportunity and the benefit that they've given me to take time off, like, fully decompress and take time off and unplug a little bit.
So how long have you been unplugged? 2 weeks?
This is my second full week.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling pretty unplugged now. I don't have my Outlook chime anymore. I've actually let that go. I uninstalled it from my phone last week. Teams is off my phone.
Yeah.
I feel like you feel naked a little bit. You don't have a connection to the outside world. But you don't need that. Like, I can spend time with, I spent all last week playing stay-at-home dad, and it was one of the best weeks of my life, because I just got to spend all that time with my baby, go on some walks, just hang out at the house, knock out some house projects. Just really small, menial stuff, but stuff that is fulfilling and kind of recharges your battery, so to speak.
I mean, that was, and I'll only tell a short version of a long story that but that was why going out into the country, like when everything was so crazy, was like so instrumental to me, like staying sane, is because when you hit the dirt road, the phone stopped ringing. Mm-hmm. And so those like little dopamine bursts of a ding or that fret or worry that I was, it starts to dissipate, because we can't deal with it. There's nothing to, right? And so you're getting like an elongated version of going out to the property for a few days, in that there's nothing to do, man.
No, I know. There's not a deadline to meet. There's not an urgent, the awesome legal team there's taking care of it right now. Like, but
Right.
there's nothing that I have to do right now that's time critical, time dependent on me being tethered to my phone.
Correct. Yeah.
And just knowing that organization too, it's like Moss, that's not what they want for you either.
Yeah.
They like you're fully expected to take time off.
Yeah.
Which is that will take some getting used to for a while.
We go 100+ episodes of not talking about extended time off, then back to back.
Back to back. Yeah.
Oh, was I not supposed to say that?
No, you're supposed to.
No, it's just wild
yeah.
how the world works.
That's right. About the sabbatical that our
Yeah.
Bill Murray provides. So
Yeah.
this is kind of, it's like my own little version of a sabbatical. But
100%.
I get to actually read books for pleasure now. I get to
Barf.
You said
Barf. Reading a book for fun.
oh.
Oh, it's like he gets to barf. That's
No,
super
yeah.
weird,
I'm
Stewart.
not really into that, but
It's
I mean,
a-
whatever floats your boat.
Just a joke about how I don't read books. That's just staying on
That's
brand
okay.
there.
But yeah, just having time to just kind of reconnect with things that you really enjoy doing, you haven't had a chance to do, like read. When I say sleep in, I mean, I actually mean like sleep into like, not Stewart sleep in, but like actually sleep into 7:30 or so has been really nice. Like last night, I think I went to bed at 9:30.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And my baby slept all the way through. She woke up once, but almost slept all the way through the night. Like, how refreshing is that? And go cook a great meal. I can, like the other day, I went up for like an hour and a half walk with my baby. I didn't have to worry about, like, I have nowhere to be.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
for you, man.
It's awesome. Like, not saying everyone should take everyone should take this month off, frankly, but everyone should take some extended time off and just recharge those batteries the best they can.
Well, and one of the things, and we'll catch lunch sometime between here and there to talk at it like in full length, but like one of the things I'm curious to hear about after 3 or 4 weeks of this is like, where are you going to reset the guardrails?
Mhm.
Right. Because I think that's super important, right? The guardrails for me, and I think for you, just fell off at some point. Everything was just everything. But you're afforded this opportunity to figure out what's important, set the guardrails,
Mhm.
and go into your new job. Like, no, this is it. Like, this is what I do. It's nothing's broken anymore.
Yeah.
It's all fixed.
Yeah. When I leave, like at the end of the day, like my phone goes off.
Mhm.
Like here,
That's what I do.
Like I hate to call it a boundary because that almost has a negative connotation, but it really is. It's like, you know, here's where I'm at. I'm plugged in. I'm where my feet are at 100% of the time. And then when I leave, I'm with my family, or I'm on
Yeah.
vacation, or I'm going to meet someone, like things like that.
If you're going to ask for that, I'm going to interject there. If you're going to ask for that, make sure you're where your feet are in those moments.
Mhm.
You can't have it both ways, right? Like
Yep.
completely shut off, but then you're only 50% there because you're scrolling through Instagram all day at work. Like,
Yeah, that's really
be
tough.
disciplined. Your 8 better look good.
Yeah,
you know?
that's really tough to do. And I would have that problem like in private practice, being on vacation. You know, you take a week off, you've taken a lot of time off. But it almost takes a week to be where your feet are at that point, because there's that overwhelming temptation to always like, oh, let me just check my phone really quick.
Yeah.
Or I can solve this problem. Like, hey, let me just send a quick email. And it takes 4 or 5 days to fully get there. And by that point, it's like, well, I need to check in for my flight. It's time to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really tough to do.
But my shoulders didn't drop.
Yeah. It's like, I'm still kind of stressed.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't fair. And
I forget who it was. Someone in the circle said something to the effect of like, you have to take 2 weeks off because it's not until the 5th or 6th day that your shoulders start to drop. And then you get to reap the benefit of being away from the office. And then you can gear back up on the backside. I was like, man, I could never take 2 weeks off from work. You crazy?
Yeah.
But it's part and parcel to being tethered to your phone and all this, everything is just kind of to harken back to the moments from we were talking about earlier. In 1995, your office phone only rang at the office, right? And so when you went home, it was way easier to just be like, I might think about it, I might marinate on it, but I'm not on the phone and I'm not excited.
Almost impossible to work on it.
Impossible. Yeah, we're right. Because I didn't have a computer and I didn't have so it's got to put some guardrails up. Boundaries, call what you want.
Yeah, there was a point where it's like I used to leave my computer at work, but then I had a laptop, so now I'd bring it home every night.
Yeah.
And I don't know when I stopped leaving my laptop at work, but there was a point where I just stopped leaving it at work. Like I just brought it home every night.
Yeah.
So I would get home and I would eat dinner and then, okay, let me answer a few emails real quick.
Yeah, second shift.
Yeah. And I don't know, it just wasn't sustainable and not ultimately a healthy mix for where I wanted to be in my career and my life.
Yeah. It's a great company, man. Carson's lucky. Kim's lucky to have you over there, man.
I think I'm the lucky
that,
one.
So.
It was meant to be.
Yeah. Things have a funny way of working out.
They really do. Like it seems cliche and like, oh, this is some Disney story stuff. But like it kind of feels like that in a way. It's like the timing like the timing was serendipitous and the way that things happened and how quickly things moved. And when you know, and after I had talked with them, it's like, well, this is it. And I went home to my wife and I'm like, I'm leaving private practice. Like, it's not a matter of, I got to hear him out. Like, sorry guys. Like I was always going to take the job. We're inked on a piece of paper now. So no takesy backsies. But, I knew immediately. Like, okay, this is it. This was, and I think I called you almost immediately. We had breakfast pretty quickly. I'm like, hey, you want to hear something? I got some news. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that changes things a little bit.
Congratulations, Stewart. You just found the episode title.
What's that?
No takesy backsies.
No takesy backsies.
All right, we'll do that. I was thinking it was going to be, hold on a second. Here's what I was thinking it was going to be. We actually have a listener question.
Oh, no. Did Crystal text you?
Yeah. You know,
no, I told Crystal there's no viewer questions.
So we have a listener question I'd like to read into the record here. Is it true that you have dice in your pockets, but you're too afraid to use them? I have no idea what that means.
It's an awful reference. And can you please tell Crystal that
no,
I'm wearing a fedora with safari flaps?
Okay, I'll tell her now. Fedora with, I don't know what this is about.
There's a really terrible show on Netflix called I Think You Should Leave by Tim Robinson.
Man, I tried at your behest to watch this.
When I call it dumb humor, it's a level below that.
Oh, man.
It is so dumb that you have to watch it about 5 times. But after you've watched it the 5th time, you're like, okay, I see it. Like, this is like turn your brain off and laugh at like just terrible jokes humor. Like, that's exactly what this is.
I couldn't break over.
Right now, Matt Fisher is getting all wound up because he's like, wait a minute. There's a guest question call-in section. I didn't know about it until today.
No,
because he would have all the inappropriate questions.
Yes.
Can you ask this one? No, we can't.
No, we can't. Well, I was afraid that was inappropriate, but I figured if it was, I'd edit it.
If I explain the skit a little bit more, then I can get inappropriate pretty quickly.
No, let's not.
Oh yeah, we're gonna skip over that.
We'll skip that.
It's a PG program. Ian.
No, I know.
I don't have to mark
Calm it down, Lan.
Easy, Lan.
Can you please misspell my name when promoting it? Just call me Lan. This week's guest, Ian Lan Fullington. Or Lan Fullington.
I'm going to put it in the header. Yeah, Lan Fullington. All right, did we miss anything? I think we hit all the stuff that we'd at least contemplated talking about, other than you got to give us your books and one big thing. That's how we end. You know,
no pressure. You got to close our year and season strong. No biggie.
Man, so books.
I can force feed you some. We tried to do a book club.
So it's funny. I'll get to that in a minute. My favorite book ever is O'Connor's 2019 edition before they changed the civil rules of the rules of civil procedure. I'm just kidding.
You mean before they changed the numbering and made it impossible to find stuff in O'Connor's?
But before they actually had the civil procedure rules changed, and it was a beautiful publication, and it just changed my life for the better.
That's
O'Connor, am I right, guys?
No, that's such a terrible lawyer joke. That's like the nerdiest thing ever. It's like when you left from the firm, we had like a little like in memoriam, and I put a copy of the property code.
Yes,
beneath your like funeral.
Have you seen that picture? They made like it was like I died, and they made like a funeral. And everybody put like flowers and stuff. Like I was.
No, I saw the ball pit balls, I thought, everywhere, balloons or something.
Yeah, through the ball pit balls.
We had like flat Stewie, and then we had like a couple like candles by it.
Yeah.
And then I made like a little brochure, which was one of my better bits.
The brochure was so good. Man, Ian is really good at like office bits period. And there was a really funny like when COVID was starting, like just like we didn't know what it was gonna be, like humorous COVID flyer that he posted on the refrigerator. And at the time I was like, man, that's really funny. And then fast forward 3 months and I was like,
not funny anymore.
Yeah. Like, that was
did not age well.
That was winsome, I think.
Holy 2 years later, it's kind of funny again.
Back. Yeah, it's back to funny.
Yeah, like a touch in the microphone NBA player kind of deal.
That's still not funny.
Okay.
No, that's bad.
Wasn't he like patient?
He had COVID.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't have COVID. Then,
Rudy Gobert playing the Thunder, and that was like the first game that was canceled. And 30 minutes later, they canceled the season.
Yes. That was
what a time to be alive.
Yes.
Hey, on the phone, I just got the time hop a couple days ago. 1 year ago, Flat Stewie.
Yeah,
from the Texo Gala.
So there was another.
That was a year ago.
So were y'all weren't at the gala, were you?
No, I missed it.
I was.
Year.
He was. Oh, not this year.
This year.
It was
Disney.
Oh, that's right.
I recorded a bunch of videos that were supposed to be played there, and then they pulled the plug last minute.
He recorded a bunch of videos that were terrible.
Edited.
I spent an hour editing them, like so that you could hear the sound quality, like de-humming them, and they didn't use them.
Oh,
I know.
But point of that is there was another. I forget who it was, but somebody else had a flat version of somebody they brought along stage. And so
yes. Keon brought Joe Donnarumma.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So Flat Stewie was
A pioneer.
ahead of his time.
Ahead of
Oh
his.
my God. See, this is what I don't miss about working with you.
That is
Just like it's so defeating.
war drums.
So defeating.
Like we're
Good
ending it
Lord.
right there.
Ah.
Oh man, that's amazing. All right, so do you have a real book?
Yeah, so I'm probably 2/3 of the way through Dare to Lead. And it's really,
a
really
D?
good. Dare to Lead.
Got it.
Lead. Yeah.
Brene
Not
Brown.
leave.
It's
No, it sounds like leave.
No,
Oh.
Crystal has joked with us that it's Dare to Leave because we've suggested the book and we both left.
Yes.
Point is, I can't think of another book that I've read. And granted, I'm reading more now, so I haven't read a ton recently. But about every 2 or 3 pages, there's something I underline, highlight, and dog ear and think, man, she nailed it. Like,
Yeah.
holy cow. Like, this is a perfect way to transcribe exactly what I couldn't previously articulate,
Mhm.
or something that I had struggled with as far as like leadership or, vulnerability or shame. Like, she encapsulates it so well and so
Mhm.
clearly that it's not like a word salad you're trying to unscramble. It's like, hey, she said it in 5 words what I couldn't articulate over the past 2 years.
Yep.
Dare to Lead is excellent.
Mhm.
And
Have
Grant,
you read it, Kev?
I just bought it on Audible.
Oh,
I
it's so
was
just
gonna
right
ask
now?
you guys-
Good.
because I was going to ask you guys if you've ever read it because it's been referenced a bunch.
Oh, you
Talk
have
about
to
a
read
confirmation.
It.
I
It's so
have to get
good.
through Jordan Peterson's 15-hour 12 rules for life.
Miss me with that.
No, it's going to be great. It's just he's so intelligent that I feel stupid. Kind of like sitting with you two.
You know who loves Jordan Peterson?
Barry
Barry.
Brooks.
Barry loves Jordan Peterson too.
Makes sense since this is about the size of Musashi.
That's
I always got to knock Barry.
a deep cut. Go back to episode 35 ago and check that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So hit me with one big thing, man. You got a life well lived through 34 years and a lot of stuff, and I convinced you to follow me to a few places, and we've done a lot of cool things. And so what? What's your takeaway?
Find a good mentor. Like, seek a good mentor out. Find a good mentor. I know it sounds simplistic, but it's been the thing that's changed my career. Like, I think I would be not meddling, but I'd be an average lawyer, and I think it would be fine. But having good mentors throughout different stages of my career has been an invaluable resource for me. Just people who I trust, that it's a judgment-free way to ask questions and just grow as a person. And just don't limit that to just professional, like, workplace questions. Like, ask somebody's experience, like working out, working with something. Like, hey man, like, I know you've had kids, like, and you've had this job, like, how did you do it? Like, what was your experience? Like, did you struggle with this too? And just having those kind of open conversations, finding a good mentor who you trust. Simplistic, and I know it's cliche, but it's invaluable. Like, it really is. And find a good mentor.
Yeah, it's a good one, man.
Proud of you, man. You stand on a solid foundation.
Thanks,
you really
Kevin. I
do.
appreciate it.
Looking forward to seeing what awesome things you can do over at Moss the next few years.
Me too, man.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.